Hi friends, I'm here today to talk to you about transplanting. This video follows up on last year's sowing video. So if you want to see how to do the sowing, go check out the other video. And now we're going to see basically what do we do once it's been sown. So we sowed tomatoes in pots. We did quite a few sowings in trays, and there were several sowing methods. So today we're going to do the transplanting. So in this video I'm going to tell you a bit about what transplanting is, why we do it, and what little things you need to pay attention to. And there you go. So first of all, what is transplanting and what is it for? Transplanting is simply when many plants are crowded together. So it's just about separating the plants from each other to put them in the ground. So we'll either move them to small pots, one plant per pot, or even put them directly into the ground for crops where they will stay permanently in the soil. Why do we transplant? Here we'll only transplant into pots, not directly into the ground. Why do we do it? Because it's all related to a space issue actually. When we grow seedlings, we put them close together in a box. I'm not sure if you can see them, so they're stacked in a box. Here's one in a pot like this. I can manage to grow 100, 150, even 200 tomato plants in a small pot. So it works really well, there's no problem. Tomatoes are well suited for this. Next, we'll move them into each pot, which takes up much more space. To get them to sprout, I use a warm spot with a heating mat. Planting only one seed per pot would use too much space, so I couldn't grow as much. So we sow them densely, and then once they've sprouted well, we can transplant them. You can plant many seeds because you make your own, but you don't always know if they'll all sprout. If you plant one seed per pot and only half of them sprout, then you prepared half the pots for nothing, you waste time for nothing, and you waste potting soil for nothing. Once the seedlings look healthy and have sprouted, place each in its own pot and it will work. What do we transplant into? We covered this for seedlings in the video. We sow in a special, very fine seedling soil without any fibers, all that, for the simple reason that once the plants are all on top of each other, like here. When should we separate them? With fibrous soil, like potting soil, it's tough to untangle the roots. We're going to struggle a bit. For repotting, actually transplanting, sorry. Since each will be in its own pot, we don't need to separate them. We can use a more fibrous potting soil with coconut fiber. It contains several things and drains well. It's pretty good. As for the potting soil, I use a professional potting mix. It's the FloraGuard brand. You don't have to use that. You can definitely make your own potting soil. But making good potting soil is a real skill. It takes a lot of time to make it, to get really good quality, but you could do it. At first I used to make a mix of a bit of potting soil with sand and compost. Now if you do that, the downside is that in your compost, unless it's made perfectly, there will be a lot of seeds in your compost. And when you put your little tomato like that, they're going to sprout next to it. And you'll have to remember to weed regularly, and if you miss the weeding, there will be other things growing next to it. They'll absorb nutrients from your pot's soil, so your tomato plant won't get all it needs. I did it at first but stopped because it became a hassle. But the downside is that store-bought soil can be low quality, as there are many poor quality options available. In some garden centers it's hard to find good soil. For me, the only brands I like are FloraGuard and Provine. I used Provine before, but not anymore, though it was good. That's it. Use potting soil, not seed starting soil. One thing to know when you're transplanting is that there's really a matter of selection. Once everything has sprouted in your tray, pot or container, you won't transplant all the plants, just the nicest ones. And so that's what we call varietal selection. When you garden or grow plants, you're already practicing selection, something gardeners have always done. You know, when we grow plants, we're selecting, and everyone has their own criteria. If I start from the wrong side, if you go buy seeds, really commercial ones, the people who are in the seed business, what they want are things that are productive. For a long time, agriculture has been mostly traditional until now. We select for yield, we want a plant that produces a lot, and then we select for storage afterwards. We want vegetables that once harvested keep well, so they can be transported, sent to supermarkets and to small gardeners. Generally, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for things that are good, fruits that are tasty. The selection we're going to make at the time of transplanting is all about production, not about taste quality. We don't know the fruit yet, but we're going to make a selection anyway. Germination quality and time vary. Some seeds sprout better in warm or cold conditions, and some require deeper or shallower planting. So every little thing you do to your plants, every action you take, you're making a selection. If you sow seeds in trays like I do in a warm place with a little layer of vermiculite, that clay-like material to cover them, if you have seeds that aren't suited for that, they won't sprout, but the others will. And automatically you'll transplant those, you'll select those. If you sow seeds, some plants sprout quickly while others take longer. If you transplant the first ones and don't do the next ones, you will select a fast germination criterion. Anything that sprouts slowly, you won't do it. And so year after year, if you keep taking your seeds, you'll end up with seeds that will sprout faster and faster. Or in any case, you will really be selecting for that criterion. So it's good to pay attention to that, to select. If you then grow on your own land and soil, you will have plants that adapt to your land and that are not necessarily adapted to other lands afterwards. So there you go, that's important to keep in mind. For me, there's a little thing, often it makes me react. Among the people who come to work here, we take out quite a few plants. We really transplant the pretty ones. And then the others, well, there's one. It's not ugly or dead, it will grow. It's not the prettiest wheat, it's a bit stunted and crooked, but it will grow. I throw it away, but some people tell me, no, that's still alive. We're going to give it a chance, we're going to replant it, we're going to water it well, it'll end up growing. She puts on a little powder, then she puts on a little more powder, and then she puts on a little powder, and then she puts on a little powder. Then she puts on a little powder, and then she goes to put on a little powder, then she puts on a little powder, then a little bit, she puts on a little powder, and put on a little powder, then she puts on a little powder, and then she goes for a bit of powder, and then she goes for a little bit of powder, then she goes to put on some powder. We remove them, and each year you'll see better quality plants. And now we come to the slightly technical part. So we're going to put them in pots. So how do we pot them? Here, I'll show you. There are many plants, each handled differently. There's one thing you need to know, and that's the depth at which you're going to plant your seedlings. Not all plants react the same way. For example, with tomatoes. Here is the stem and the cotyledons, which are the plant's first two leaves, though they're not true leaves. They're nutrient reserves in the seed. The first true leaves grow above, and the stem below, called a hypocotyle, isn't technically a stem. The technical term isn't important to remember. But just know that the stem below the cotyledons in the tomato can be buried. The plant, see, some are already done, can be buried up to here, and this part will grow roots. See, it's not transplanted as it's sprouted, but here it's sprouted with this whole stem coming out. It's not transplanted with a plant coming out like this. Or, after a while, if it doesn't have enough support, your plant will fall over. It won't look nice. So, I'll show you for the tomato, and then I'll show you for other different plants. I fill my pot without packing the soil. There are some technical details involved. We don't fill it by packing it down like this, because then the soil is too compacted, it doesn't work. So really we fill it very loosely. You can gently place the seedling on top like this, and with your finger you push it down to the spot where you want it, more or less in the center of the pot. There. And once it's there, so there are two parts. First, pack the soil down firmly so that the soil goes everywhere in the pot. And once it's packed well in the pot, loosen it up so the soil rises a bit. Now I've put it in the pot, I'm going to lower it again. There you go, loosen it up well. There you go, now we have something good. That's a technique that works more or less, I'd say, for all the Solanaceae, so chili peppers, bell peppers, eggplants, and all the tomatoes. This technique, if you use it on cucurbits, for example zucchinis, and if you bury the part that's below the collar on zucchinis, your plant will rot, your plant will die. For squash, zucchinis, melons, and watermelons, we avoid burying the stem. I can't give you a list right now of which plants to bury or not. Try it out, you'll see. I know that I bury willows, and there are a lot of plants that I bury, but I don't bury cucurbits. And then do your own test at home with your plants, and you'll see for yourself. Just like with anything you do when you're propagating plants, taking cuttings, sowing seeds, anything at all. One of the most important things is to remember to put a label. You know what's in each pot now, but after moving many pots from the greenhouse to the garden, you won't remember which is which. And if you don't know what kind of tomato it is, if you don't know what kind of plant it is, it can be bad, a bit annoying. So always remember to keep a label. So here I have all the seedlings on top of each other. We're just going to gently, with a spoon, take out some blocks. There we go. So here, look, I made a mistake. I didn't finish my tomatoes. I left a lot of things with the roots exposed. Think about it. If you don't use up all the plants you have, if you leave some behind, if you want to take a break, never leave the roots exposed to the sun. That's never very good. So here, for these ones, I'll finish them later, so I can just put them somewhere here on the side. There we go, and I put a bit of soil on the roots, just like that. At least they won't suffer while waiting. So here, this is actually ice up. So same technique, I fill my pot with some light soil. And here, for these ones, I made a lot. I produced the seeds, so I managed to get a pretty good quantity. So I'm not going to put just one per pot. I want it so that when it grows, it makes a little clump, so I put in a bit more, so I take some. No need to count them, but there you go. I estimate there are 5 or 6 there. There we go. And I'm going to put this in the middle here, pushing them in a bit. Alright, I go down about to the level of the cotyledons, averaging it out. After finishing, compact and loosen the center so the soil fills the pot and remains light. So here, once it's in the pot, packed and loosened, you shouldn't go gently, you really have to do it. Here we've packed it down so you can clearly see the edges of the pot are bulging. If you touch it, it's hard. You shouldn't do it like this, you really have to bring the soil up, so you press quite firmly with your fingers, tap, tap. Here, you need to see that the pot is flexible. I also didn't mention the level, which is important. How high does the soil level go? It's good that in the end the pot isn't filled up to there. Because when we water later on, since right now we can't water like this. If the pot is too full, the water will run off directly and we won't have effective watering. So it's good for the soil level to be there slightly below the rim of the pot, so that when we water, the water will stay in the pot. Well, that's just a detail, but when you have a lot of plants, every little detail is important. You never finish by pressing the soil down like this. Everywhere the soil is smooth like this. For me, what often happens here with the humidity is that algae start to grow, and it happens. So first it doesn't look nice, and then it kind of suffocates the pot a bit. So there you go, the soil ends up granular like this, and now we have something pretty good. The plants are more or less in the middle. So when there are a lot like this, it can happen that some will be in the shade of others, and some of them will grow less. It's also a selection here, it's a selection among them. The most vigorous ones, those that grow best and fastest, will take over the others. And there you go, that's natural selection, so it's no longer us making the selection, but that's interesting too. Same as always, I'm here. We made some isopis, so it's important to put a label on them. On top of that, we could put the date on it. We could put, when we do sowing with different seeds, the year the seed was harvested to see if it's still good. So we can also select the germination period. Here we're going to test a much smaller plant, a bit shorter, so the technique is slightly different. For example, this is Echinacea. So I don't have a lot of it, and I really want to have a lot of it in the garden of this. So we're going to put one per pot. As always, the pots are prepared in advance. This way, when our plant is ready, the root isn't exposed for long. To work faster, we can prepare several pots ahead of time. I put all the same ones there. And once the pots are ready, we place our plants on them. And after that, well, it's still kind of always the same. We insert the roots, center the plant, and ensure the soil matches the edge level of the teeth. So here it's a much shorter stem, so it's going to be different from the tomato. We can still raise the soil just below the tops of the teeth. There we go. We push it in so it's at that level, compact, loosen it all the time. And there you go, that works too. So there you have it. I didn't use 30 plants, just 2 or 3, but you'll see each one is somewhat different. You'll see how we pack, loosen and level the soil each time. How do you place the plant in the pot? There you go. Next we'll look at the watering part. So now we're going to finish with the watering. So I always do it the same way. The first watering is never from above with water. It could be a bit harsh and compact the soil. So always by soaking. Use a basin tub or anything you have. Because the plant lacks roots, It hasn't developed and won't absorb water quickly. So give it a thorough soak to saturate the soil. And after that, it can last like that for a week, 2 weeks. And the real technique to know if it needs to be watered or not, it's not by touching it or looking at it that you can tell, it's by the weight. It can be dry on top, but still damp underneath, and you can't see it. Or it might look damp on top, but actually underneath it's completely dry. You can tell by its weight it hasn't been watered. So always the way to know if it needs to be watered is to lift it, and depending on how heavy it is, you know if it needs water or not. Now we'll put them in the water. You don't need much water, but the pot's bottom should touch the water. You can add a bit more if needed. Be careful, too much water might cause your pot to tip in, which is unfortunate. And there you go, then you just have to let it grow. I hope that was clear enough that you more or less understood everything. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments if there's anything that's not clear. Just to clarify, these are my methods and practices. There you go, not everyone necessarily agrees with this, not everyone does it this way. Some people have other practices, so there you go, I do this one for myself and it works very well for me. There you go, I hope that was clear enough, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching until now. If you like it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you really enjoy it, consider supporting me on TP. And as usual, a big thank you to everyone who supports me. Honestly, it's thanks to you that I can do all this. Thank you, bye.